guys, so I was finally able to watch Children's Show directed by Derek Cabrita, which was another Cinemalaya movie that I was not able to catch during the original run, but I finally watched it, and I think it would be kind of unfair if I gave this one movie like its own full video, so I'm just gonna, do a short review for this. So anyway, Children's Show focuses on these two brothers who are part of an underground fight ring of sorts, kind of like a little fight club, but with all children, and basically just follows them as they deal with this and their very broken family at home. Now, one thing that is definitely a huge positive for this movie is that it is photographed extremely beautifully. Like, there's some moments that are just absolutely mesmerizing. Just the shots, some of the shots in this movie are just so haunting, but at the same time, it's such an interesting balance they strike because there's some, wide shots and whatnot that are so stark and so clear and stuff. But when you get to the actual fights where these kids are fighting, it's suitably, very gritty and very dark. And this contrast is interesting because it makes the clearer scenes feel dirtier while it makes the fight scenes seem kind of stylized. And some people might have a problem with that. I didn't necessarily have a problem with the way the fight scenes were so stylized because it gave this thing like a dreamlike quality. And huzzah, we finally get like actual competent CGI in a movie. Granted, the CGI they put in this movie is kind of strange, but it's surprising because it doesn't feel completely fake. Now, the plot in this movie isn't necessarily a plot, I would say. It's really more of like a portrait of these kids and, their lives. And I think that's actually quite interesting. There's definitely not so much of a resolution at the end, but these characters in this movie do kind of make the story very worthwhile because it's very interesting to see where they stand in this world because everyone knows these kids are in this fight ring and no one really wants to point out that hey, that's a bad thing because everyone in this movie is pretty much in deep poverty and they know that this is like necessary. The grandma, scolds them for not training well enough instead of like a normal grandmother would care about her grandchildren being beaten to death. So they are very interesting characters, I would say, and all around the acting is also very good. And again, you have Mig Scuderno, who's this small kid who's also in Asintado, and again, he's probably the best part of this movie because he is such a good young actor. However, I really am on the fence about this movie, about its overall quality, because there were quite a few bad things, for me at least, things I didn't really like. For one, this movie does use a lot of long takes, and they only work like half the time. There's sometimes when, the way the shot lingers really kind of adds to the overall effect, but other times it just feels unnecessary and, doesn't really drive any point home. One of my bigger problems though with this movie is that the fights themselves, I think, really could have been directed or edited much better. I kind of get that you don't really want to show these fights like too gratuitously because it is kind of a delicate subject matter, but you could have still edited them in a way that didn't seem fake or didn't seem like you're missing a frame or something. And same goes with the sound. Like they really should have paired up these visuals with better sound because just when you watch these kids fighting and you don't really hear any of the punches, it takes you out of it. And a lot of the dialogue in this movie also can be very melodramatic and can ramble on really again without driving any point home. But in the end, I will say that I think Children's Show does have a bit more good in it than bad, so I will say it's an okay movie. Alright, so that's 14 out of 15 for me for this year's Cinemalaya. Hopefully I get to watch Justicia one day if it screens anywhere, and I'll be done with this. So yeah, whatever you guys thought of Children's Show, whether you agree with me or not, whether you loved it or you hated it, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.